Park and Recreation Advisory Committee to order, please. I'd like to start with introductions. I'd start with Mike.
Mike Mitchell.
Lisa Normand.
Don Batchelor.
Dan Pepper.
Bob Burns.
Joyce Gifford.
Roger Follow-Tice.
Dustin Moyes.
Denise Kai, staff.
Scott Archer, staff.
Thank you very much. We shall have some remarks from Mayor Neely. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Sometimes my memory escapes me in terms of when certain things have happened, but your length of terms are, what, 3 years?
3 years.
Which means I appointed every one of you at one point or another. What I wanted to say was that I appreciate the tremendous work you've done. Many of the things that you've been working on are coming into fruition at this particular point, and many of them will be acted upon by the next commission. But you've dealt with a tremendous amount of improvements in the park in terms of master plans that you've put forward that will be coming to the commission in the fairly near future. Looking at the dog park situation, which you've come up with some specific parks that you'd like to have on basically a trial basis to see how they function and so forth. And many of these things that the public had wanted, you've been addressing. And I wanted to thank you very much. And we see we have completely insufficient funds for Parks and Recreation. You're aware of the fact on the maintenance side, we do not have enough staff, and that's one of the challenges that we'll continue to face. But in spite of all that, Parks and Recreation has come up with new programs. The decision to actually move the site of the concerts in the park to the interpretive center has been very successful. The attendance has gone way up because of that, and I wanted to compliment. I don't know to what extent you were involved in those kinds of decisions, but the Parks and Recreation program has done a tremendous job there. I think is the third summer for the movies in the park. Is that right? It's coming up. Fourth summer for the movies in the park is coming up. That's been highly successful. If anything else, I would like to see it extended to a larger period of time, but the point is it's been a very successful program. And I think the staff and you all are to be complimented, and I wanted to thank you all for the work you've done and the tremendous work that the staff has done. I know Denise Kyther was holding two managerial positions at the same time, and she's done a tremendous job, and I wanted to thank her as well for the great work, the movies in the park, the concerts in the park, and I think our recreational program is expanding. I think it's been very successful, and I just wanted to thank you all for the commitment you've had to this effort. Some of you I served with once. At least two of you I served with once when I was in the Park and Recreation Committee, I think some 9 years ago. So thank you so much.
Well, before you leave, Mr. Mayor, we would like to thank you for your dedicated service to Oregon City, and I'd like to give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
Any other comments that members would like to make? Okay, we are on next item, approval of minutes. We have two, September 25th and October 8th. And I'm assuming you've all had a chance to read the minutes, and we'll consider September 25th first. Any corrections or omissions needed?
I move that we accept the minutes as posted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of September 25th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So approved. The minutes of October 8th. Any corrections or omissions to the minutes of October the 8th? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes from October 8th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve minutes of October 8th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. Next item, we have some citizens' comments on issues and items not on the agenda, and I understand we have some people here that would like to address the park committee. And just as a reminder, we do have a policy of 3 minutes to make your address to us. We don't get terribly excited if it goes a little beyond that, but we do try to stay within the timeline. So this is the time for you to address the committee.
All right.
Welcome.
Is this the approved microphone?
I believe so.
All right. Does everybody hear me okay? Good. My name's Tom Whidden, and with me is Rita Maynard, and together we're the ad hoc committee for formation of the Oregon City Pickleball Club. This follows venues pretty much all around this general area. Pickleball is played as members of a club, very well connected with emails, annual dues, things of that nature. We have active clubs in Wilsonville, Tualatin. The big master group is the Columbia River Pickleball Club. And so then of sorts there's a club at Eastmoreland Racket Club, and intense play there. Now I've given you a schedule of all the places where it's currently played. Wilsonville outdoors is off for the wintertime on a formal schedule. They still play on a pretty regular basis. We play pickleball, rain or shine, pretty much every day of the year. And at Tualatin Park, it's under the lights. So pickleball has been responsible for rejuvenating a lot of moribund tennis facilities or outdoor parks or things of that nature. It's a smoking hot sport for seniors. And this brings a lot of new senior activity things to parks where you generally only see seniors there if they're grandparents at a picnic. So it's real easy to play pickleball. You can generally learn to play it in 10 or 15 minutes. The sport is growing at a triple-digit annual growth. The U.S. Pickleball Association started with several thousand members. We're approaching 100,000 members this year, and we have somewhere 2,000 to 5,000 members sign up a month. So there probably isn't anything else approaching that in the sports. Real easy to play pickleball, played with a wiffle ball and a graphite paddle. You buy one paddle for $50 or $60, and it's good for maybe 10 years. So recently we put on the Oregon City Pickleball Expo over at the community college, and we had 8 courts playing there. We have a real strong turnout there, a lot of interest. This specific proposal is for us at our cost and sponsorship by the U.S. Pickleball Association. Do what we've done in parks all around the United States, is to stripe the tennis courts so that pickleball can be played intermingled with tennis. Pickleball is ideally and almost always now played with portable nets that are set up, and you can put 2 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. In fact, we kind of like it that way because then the existing tennis net acts as a backstop for balls so that 2 independent games can go on. Maybe 98, 99% of all pickleball play is doubles. So in the space of where you have 1 tennis court that most of the time is 2 people hitting a ball back and forth, maybe occasionally doubles, you have 8 pickleball players. So the intensity of the use is generally 2 to 3 times as much within the same facility, same size. And when the games are over, the nets are taken down, they go in a little portable thing, people carry them off. Over at Tualatin Community Park, we purchased a steel storage chest, and all the nets and the balls are stored there. All the members of the club have a combination, and so whoever gets there first opens up the chest, gets out the balls, and it's kind of a self-administered thing. Not much of a scallywag factor with seniors. The average age in our club is 67 years old, and kind of show up in late model SUVs, and we take care of ourselves, police ourselves, and The Tualatin City Police really likes the idea of having the 20 to 30 seniors keeping an eye on the ruffians over at the skate park next door. And so don't tend to leave any cigarette butts around. Nobody smokes. So no drinking or carousing going on. So it's an ideal bunch of people that help support your budgets when your park and rec bond measures and things come up. Generally, the seniors say, well, it isn't applicable, but a lot of people get a kick out of watching the pickleball people play. And they typically play in the mornings, maybe done by about noon or so. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee?
We've got two.
Yes, sir.
On one of your maps where it looks like you're 9 feet past the end of the baseline,
That's correct.
is that typically inside the fence that's normally
Oh, yes.
behind the court?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's enough room even with the outer
Typical
fence there.
tennis court, and especially the ones over Ridgecrest, it's 23 feet from the baseline to the cyclone fence. So there's plenty of room.
So tonight, is your purpose tonight just to tell us about pickleball, or do you have a specific
In
park
general-
recommendation in mind?
The specific proposal that's presented tonight on the agenda that's handed out to you is that the U.S. Pickleball Association, at our expense, would professionally stripe the courts over at the Rivercrest to facilitate pickleball. In the early days, people used to think like, oh boy, well, bright yellow stripes, they'll be almost like white stripes. Since learned that that's not advisable or necessary, and the preferred color right now is an orange, about like what that cone is up there, and very harmonious, and there's no discord with the white tennis stripes that way.
Other questions? Okay,
I
well,
want to add one little bit. As far as, so if pickleball can be striped at Rivercrest and we can get a local surge of people who are playing, then a long-term goal could be Laureate Park. Having that resurfaced, which I know just sits there at the moment, and having the opportunity to do something functional with that space potentially could be an amazing place to have dedicated pickleball play. So really the Rivercrest is to get people going, seeing what it is, and then if there's a surge of people interested, we can think about that place, look for grants, look for matching funds, look for opportunity to repave a larger spot. But at this point, getting something going, someplace to play in the city would be really nice. We've talked about Glen Oaks Park, but that's a future thing down the road. So to have something immediate happening.
I was going to mention that in the design activity for the Glen Oaks Park, there's been a lot of conversation about pickleball,
Yes.
but that is down the road, down for
Yes.
a ways. Can we put this on a future agenda, Scott, and have more time to think about it and discuss it?
Sure.
Maybe
I'm going to
Jane?
ask, how many tennis courts are there right now at Rivercrest?
Two.
Two?
One is, and it's a little different. There's one court that is only for singles, so it's actually kind of a smaller. So two courts, but one is only singles, one is a doubles or singles.
And the pickleball people would need the doubles court?
Yeah. The single and the double, the two tennis courts you have would create 4 pickleball courts. It would leave the option that we could play 2 pickleball games, say on the single or on the double, whichever. And then as the need arose, if there were enough players there, you could move on to both of them.
So there's the option. The way you stripe the court would be that you stripe it in a way that can facilitate just using the tennis net, the same way the tennis players would come on. And then you'd also have stripes that if there were more people and portable nets, you could do it so that there is pickleball on each side of the tennis court. So it's the striping that you do accommodates both. Does that make sense? Okay.
And how permanent is this striping?
As permanent as the white stripes that are on there now. Use the same paint. You wash the court, which we would do, then you put a primer down, and then the permanent color.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, and Scott, do we know how busy the tennis courts are at Rivercrest?
Well, I think we'd like to study this probably more in depth, but just a quick kind of comment is the the Rivercrest tennis courts are busy. They're well used. It's in a great location, and we just redid those a few years ago. So those are our, as far as the Parks Department, those are our best courts. We have a number of other courts, not a lot, but some that are in less good condition. The ones that are probably in the next best good condition are Hillendale, which are a little bit more tucked back into the park, and then we've got a couple of other at the parks. Latourette, of course, we've got it's almost rubble at this point. Would love to see something happen there, but anyway, I think this is something that at that point, that question exactly, Dan, is what we would want to discuss: is the existing use, how much use there is, potential conflicting uses. Of course, I know these folks are looking to promote a great activity. Pickleball is a popular sport. It's a good game. It's easy to play and learn. So I agree with everything that you've said as far as the value of the activity. So it's just something that's relatively recent for us to be looking at. So that's why I suggested it would be a good topic to put on a future agenda and allow staff to do a little more research into some of the issues and some things that you would want to consider, and go from there. But these folks have done a good job of advocating, because the Parks Master Plan that we're going to discuss a little bit later in the meeting, there's a multi-use, including pickleball court on one of those sites. So that probably wouldn't have been there had these folks not done the good job that they're doing in promoting and advocating their sport. But I know they're looking for something more short-term, near-term, and whether we can accommodate that or not is something we probably need to look at a little bit more closely. So,
Okay.
I have a question. Have you taken a look at the courts at Hillendale Park?
So as you look at this, studying the Rivercrest, when I was there many mornings in the summer, it was the moms walking around with their kids and nobody's playing tennis, but it's different times. And so a study would be very good. I was alone using the wall, and there weren't people at certain times, but I don't know, I wasn't there all the time. Hillendale seemed to have some potholes in it, and so I don't know, what was by the jail. You could hear the jailers. That was one thing that didn't feel as conducive to being
Give them
comfortable
some
there.
entertainment? What?
There was that. So and it is tucked a bit away. So but it wasn't in as good shape as far as the surface. And needless to say, Laureate is in pretty bad shape.
Oh, Latourette is,
Latourette, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much, and we will be talking about this soon, I'm sure.
If you wish, I put a schedule on here, all the places where pickleball is played, and most of them are public parks. If you're out driving around, come by, take a peek.
And if you'd
you'll see
like-
the striping.
If you'd like us to come back at any time with videos or any more information and stuff, we'd be more than willing to do that. If you have any more questions of us and want to invite us back for a longer talk, that would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is a report from Maureen Cole.
So Maureen is actually not here.
Okay.
She ended up. So we're having this similar discussion at the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association meeting at the same time tonight. So Maureen is at that meeting, and here is to talk about this is Joan Jasper. Got that right, Joan? Mm-hmm. And I think Joan has been in front of this committee before. She's with the architect firm that is working on the library project. And Joan's going to give you an update on where the facility issue is at. Also, Denise Kai on our staff is on the building technical committee and has been very involved in that discussion and probably have some input for you as well. So. Is it working? No?
It's not reading the screen.
Oh, it just did something when
Can
you
we get
moved
it
the
up here?
mouse down there. I think it's a computer thing, not this.
It was me that was doing it.
There we go. All right. Hello again, I'm Joan Jasper. Thank you so much for giving us the time. It's a busy night tonight. Maureen Cole and Sid Scott are over at the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. Like Scott said, pretty much having the same presentation. And, reading through the staff report, that Maureen Cole gave, as you know, just an update, through outreach and public and city input, we were charged with a 2-story library off the back of the Carnegie. As a result of that, that was to preserve park area, preserve the spray park, preserve the tree canopy along 7th, and mostly to preserve the iconic view of the Carnegie. And that was not the recommendation from the library board and the library team. They were looking for the 1-story, which really created kind of the most access, the most flexibility, and worked best with their staffing projections. So given that, we're still super excited about this 2-story addition, and when we talked to HRB after City Commission, we told them we want to come back with 2 options for the 2-story that will be hard to make a choice. So what I'd like to do is maybe go through what we presented at the community meeting on Monday with a couple supplementary slides as it relates to the park development. We have not shown those slides to anybody other than you because the issue has not come up. Everybody, I'd say unanimously, we had a community open house on Monday. It was split between option 1, option 2. Nobody was asking for anything else. They loved it. And then I do a Thursday studio at the library for 3 hours, and that concluded today, where I talk to people who come up. I have a big sign that says, "Come talk to me," and I'm working on my computer. And everybody is so excited about the library and the idea, of enhancing the park and enhancing the library. So again, a little bit of what we'll talk towards the end has really not come up from the general public. I'm sure it will with McLaughlin tonight. But so what I'd like to do is just kind of go through that. And so this is a PowerPoint that we showed, and we have boards as well. And we have 2 options, but from a site planning standpoint, they differ very little. All right. So one of the challenges that we were met with the 2-story is kind of staffing. So what we're trying to do is do a very kind of consolidated or not a consolidated entry point so that we don't have to duplicate service points or information areas. Also creating a 2-story space that allows the library staff to know what's going on the library from one level to another. As well as when preserving the iconic view of the Carnegie, it was given that the primary entry and ADA entry would be in the new addition. The library staff is committed to having the existing Carnegie entry open for those people who want to enter there, but for ADA accessibility, book drop, that kind of thing, that will happen in the new edition. And so what that does is create, so here's the site plan. What we're trying to do is create a central information point at the juncture between the old building and the new addition. So that kind of puts it in a spot where it could be considered tucked away. So we have really looked at using the existing spray park, the existing walkways to create what we're calling a library plaza, a civic plaza, where we are really opening up so that you can, the new addition is off the back. We've created an accessible route between the connection it'd be a lesser connection to 7th that will connect up to the existing path, but it'll allow us to regrade this so that we will have an accessible route, an entry, civic stairs, similar to even what the Carnegie has now, but on a larger scale that's befitting of the existing building, and drop off and ADA accessibility for the main entry that goes through here. All right, so this existing spray park, we're proposing putting, like a bosque of trees, whether it's within landscaping or within tree wells with new paving. So it really becomes, what we're trying to do is allow the spray park to be a year-round feature. Breaking down the wall so that you can, from here, you can cross. You can go in this way, or you can come across this way, or you can park here and go that way, and it becomes a gathering spot, whether the fountain is on or not. So this is option 1, and we call this the atrium, and that you come along this covered entry porch, or if you're strolling down 7th, you can come in here, because these are only about 30 feet apart, the entries, and come into a central space right here. So in the floor plan, here's the covered, here's the entry porch, vestibule here off of 6th and the plaza to John Adams, the vestibule here off of 7th into the central service point or information booth right here. And that atrium becomes the hub. And what both the library team and the building team are committed to is making sure that the Carnegie is viable, active, and as central, to the library as anything that's new. So that really, you have the central atrium, you come into the community room with a reading foyer in front, children's area that we're actually showing from the, let me back up, new playground area, so that would be contiguous. And then local history, periodicals, new materials in the existing Carnegie. All right. Here is a view from John Adams and 6th. From option 1 and option 2, similar in their site development, somewhat different in their architectural rendering, and you'll see that with option 2. This one, the public space is in the central atrium. We're using a heavier, more solid base with kind of a lighter kind of tree house, clear story, really kind of taking this area and really relating it back to the Carnegie, but yet having where the Carnegie is detailed, this one would not. It would have a more kind of modern, refined detail. So what it does is, what we think is it allows the building to have its own scale. So because it's twice as tall, almost twice as tall. But this is the view from John Adams and 6th. And these little towers here, we got a little exuberant with the water, but that's just the spray fountain, and it's summer here. So, and then here's a view, kind of looking, here's the existing spray park, maybe developing a new seating wall, shade from the trees that are in tree wells or landscape. What this does allow, too, is really allows us to have this ADA welcoming, inviting entry porch into the knuckle or into the entry vestibule. And you can see here right now is the slide and swing that we're either relocating, replicating, or discussing further. Kind of thing. So, and then this is from 7th. All right, again, kind of the heavier base, the lighter top, atrium in the middle. The idea is that this wall here would envelop the back of the Carnegie, so when you're in the library, the back of the Carnegie becomes a backdrop, and that you're as much engaged with Carnegie, if not more, because you get to be outside of it and in it at the same time. So I think it could be a really special space. This is just, these are This is in that atrium space looking back at the Carnegie. Information, reading room here. And this would be from the second floor with the skylight above, kind of the treehouse idea. You know, relating back so that you really kind of never forget that you're in the Carnegie. So option 2, and just quickly, oops, I'll do this later. So again, you know, the site development is pretty much the same. You know, enhancing the spray park, moving the play equipment, which we know is very sentimental, you know, very dear to McLaughlin. Trying to keep, you know, really keeping this view open, but really trying to create that idea of forecourt and an entry plaza for the library so nobody doesn't know where the entry is. And this one, in terms of architectural, we call this the overlook. So it has a central atrium, but then it has kind of a second story, what we call window frame, that is a 2-story space where the building sets back, and that it creates almost like a theater or overlook where you have seating areas, study carrels, that kind of thing, that allow you to look down below and then out and beyond and into the park. So you'll see, so here's that central atrium, the vestibule's tucked here, the entry porch, the spray park is here, playground's there. You come into the central atrium here, and then the children's area and the community room, again, reading. These places are active, even though it's a 2-story space. And then up on the second floor, this is that overlook, where you have kind of the quieter fiction, nonfiction, with these kind of balconies, you know, that are open and overlooking. And, you know, we've talked about acoustics and all that kind of good stuff. They could either be open or they could be glassed in. But this idea that you are a building within the park, you know, you are participating both with the library, both with the Carnegie, and I guess triply with the park. So, you know, similar views, you know, the exuberant spray park, but you can see here that instead of having kind of the heavier base, lighter top, we've really got like a window frame behind the Carnegie with a masonry kind of box behind it, much more slender, linear read, that kind of thing. But the site planning is the same, and that's really why we're here. But so this is a view, you know, looking from 6th Street, where a lot of our ADA. It was funny. I was at the studio today, and a woman who has a spinal injury. We were talking about parking and ADA and stuff like that, and we actually helped her out the ramp because it's wet and it's slippery, you know, and that's an ADA accessible ramp, but you know, situations extenuating, and she was really a little bit nervous, so we just helped her out. Where this one, you know, with this plaza, you know, we can have hopefully no greater than a 2% grade, so we have an accessible path along the south corner of the park. And then so you can see kind of in here, those would be those study carrels or balconies, kind of looking into this 2-story space. You'd have children out and about, you know, down here, you know, seating wall, playground, etc. And then from 7th. So this would be pretty quiet during the day, you know, and then more lit, you know, towards 4 p.m., you know, in the evening, stuff like that. And then we would probably design in night lighting, same with the other, you know, so that you could create kind of this glow, you know, in the park. So this is looking at the central atrium. This is looking towards 7th. These are the stairs that go up to the 2nd floor. We're showing wider openings here in the Carnegie. You know, that's still up for grabs, but this would be the view that you would see. Okay, and what's really wonderful about this, so this is from kind of the northeast side towards 7th again, so no matter where you are in the library, you're seeing the Carnegie. You know, so it's very much kind of trying to blur the existing to the new, and that whether you're in the Carnegie or not, you still see it, which I think we can achieve with either scheme. So that's kind of option 1 and option 2. And then what is here in both these schemes, which is really one scheme from a site planning, we're moving the play equipment across the major entry over near the children's area. Because when we went back after we were charged with a 2-story, approximately 7,500 square foot each to keep the footprint small, what we realized is that the existing play equipment is smack dab where the entry wants to be for the new addition. And doesn't really kind of support that idea of the entry, kind of the library plaza, the civic plaza. So this illustration kind of shows the existing spray park. Here is the wall, right here. So if you park here, if you walk through, you have to go like this, in. And here's where the existing slide and the existing swing are. So what this does is, and this is our 7,500 square foot addition. It's a little weighted to the south just because of the size of the children's library from a program. We're working at getting this symmetrical, but you can't get accessibility from 6th. So we're putting the ramp. We have to put the ramp in here, and because this would have to stay or get rebuilt. And we've been talking both to our civil consultant and our contractor, and we're not even really sure if we can maintain the flat work that's there, trying to get the grades that are required by code. We would probably have to rebuild it to look like it was existing. So that's kind of what it looks like in plan. This is just a quick blow up of taking the existing equipment or replacing it in kind and showing the clearance requirements. So here's the swing, it's 10 feet high, we've got 20 feet, we have twice the height of the swing, and then the slide here. And this is showing this building. I've taken 12 feet off the south extension to make that work. All right. And then this is kind of showing, symmetrical with it, where it is existing with the 20 foot. So this is the existing condition. This is the spray park. This dotted line right here is the curb line. And these are the clearances that exist. And Denise, right now, in ours, I didn't show the clearances overlapping because I'm not sure if they can or not. But it felt so tight, I just figured that we needed that room. And so this one, this one doesn't really comply either. We're out into the sidewalk and that kind of thing. And then this is kind of option 1, showing if the play structure's, left where it is. So you can see this is kind of where we were bringing that through. And then if you were coming from Jeff in 6th and you're wanting to get around, again, you really have to circumnavigate the play equipment. And so we are really just looking kind of for your comments and advice. It's been our recommendation, as the A&E firm, to the library board and team, that we try to integrate it into a playground to the east, of the addition, and integrate it with the children's. And so Mo has asked that we come before you guys and get your comments, concerns, and potentially opinion recommendation. So that concludes my
And you want that tonight?
presentation. No, and I mean, well, sure. Like Mo's meeting, Mo and Sid Scott are meeting with McLaughlin this evening, so they're seeing the same presentation. They were invited to the community meeting on Tuesday, and I think they elected to have their neighborhood association be their forum. We are meeting with the city commissioners next Tuesday in a work session. So to stay on schedule, we're trying to get, I think the decision cannot be made, but we're trying to get their recommendation because, and then we meet with HRB on the 15th. They have agreed to have a special session, but we're going to move forward with a scheme, to meet our January 23rd. And so the more information, more comments that we can get, is much appreciated.
Well, I'll just make one quick comment, then hopefully others will have a lot of comments to. I'm having trouble because they aren't numbered. Going from one to the next. Is there an
Option
to
one?
the next?
It's in yellow at the bottom.
Sorry.
At the bottom.
Oh,
So
Sorry
right
about
here, and again, really, the option 1 and 2 really
Okay.
have to deal with the architectural massing of the library. But both options 1 and 2 are almost identical in their site development. So
Your footprints are the same.
And the offset
Yes.
is the same?
yes.
well, any comments, Mike?
Well, when I look at 1 and 2, I don't think there's anything magical about leaving that play equipment where it is, and it seems pretty obvious that moving them makes the entrance to the library so much nicer. And I like the fact that the play equipment is right outside the children's room. Like I said, I don't think there's anything magical about having to leave that play equipment where it is. I think option 1 or 2, where you have that nice entrance would be my preference.
What is that?
My recommendation, whatever you want to call it.
Just to the north of the play equipment.
Right here,
Yeah, what does that say
receiving.
under there?
It's there'd be garden walls, but it's receiving for trash and recycling.
Okay, thank
It's deliveries and courier will go through the main door, similar to what it does now. There's nowhere to put, it's really hard to find a spot because of the grades and access. This is the most friendly access point from both a pedestrian, from ADA, from drop-off. It's too steep. It's too steep over on Jeff. So we're kind of tucking that in right here.
Well, I agree with Mike. It isn't a problem for me to move that play equipment to where it's shown here, and I like the idea of the access from 7th Street. That I don't remember that on the other plans that we saw, that that access from 7th Street. And I think that is important because we have our new parking that's up to the east side,
Yes.
which that would make it more accessible to the new parking area.
Yep.
So I like that as well.
And just so you know, the library team, the library staff is very comfortable with those 2 entries, because the information service points in the exact same location. So it makes a great staff entry. We have grade issues. We have grade issues along Jeff. So we're really looking, there's really no good egress or ingress off of Jeff because you're between floors. You're either too high or too low. And there's kind of seeing that as a staff and or, there's parking over here. So you can either meander, kind of the serene, kind of quiet side of the park and meander into the library. Or, as kiddos getting wet and stuff like that in the summertime, strollers, all that kind of good stuff. Really kind of trying to develop this as the primary kind of active entry.
Mr. Chair. So my question relates probably more to Scott on this, but the conversation up until tonight has always been that if those 2 components are touched, they're not rebuilt. So has that changed?
I'm gonna. So Denise has been very involved with the project committee, and specifically has been looking at some different issues related to that. So I'm gonna ask Denise to give you some info on that.
So I have a gentleman that we've worked with on playground projects. He's a certified playground safety inspector. He does volunteer installments through the Oregon Recreation and Park Association Maintenance and Construction Board. I asked him specifically because he's our local kind of expert in the field, if they've had experience moving older equipment, how that has worked out, if that's even a viable option. He says his opinion is that trying to move such equipment, it's a little older, we would probably bend it in the process and potentially wreck it. He did also, I sent him photos and some dimensional discussions with him. We are non-compliant in our existing playground with that existing equipment. They do overlap the use areas and the fall zones, and the slide itself is non-compliant for entrapments. So it would behoove us to consider getting into a compliant playground asset in that park, and the potential is that we could make it more playable and have compliancies all the way around as far as the fall zones and our entrapment issues with a newer option.
So can I interpret that to mean that most likely the old equipment will be demolished, and then there's a commitment from the library to build new equipment that is of equal or similar height, capacity, capabilities?
I think when we say similar height, capabilities, capacities, we would have to look at the spatial relations and today's compliancy codes.
I was at studio today, so I took my tape measure. That slide's 10.5 feet tall.
Well, so that you're exactly going down the road I'm going. All these drawings are showing that we can do that, but the whole discussion now after that is saying we can't. That's what I'm hearing.
We could look at bringing something in very similar,
Okay.
but we would have to be abiding by today's code compliancy standards for fall zones.
And so is that shown on any of these documents?
As far as we could
Right
accurately predict,
here.
it's 6 feet behind the ladder, 8
Which I'm
feet,
showing.
8 feet in the landing area. If the slide had the top landing at compliancy, which it doesn't, it's short. So to get that height value, you would have a longer landing and a longer exit point, which slows that descent. And then you have to have 8 feet at the end of that descent area for fall zone.
We could look at that, just take a 10.5 foot slide and see what that would take.
You'd have to do it today's dimensional.
Exactly. This is from our survey, and this is 6 feet to the back and 8 feet to the front. But I have not.
But not.
Well, I think you understand my concern. My concern is nothing we've seen tonight then is really valid on what will most likely happen.
If
the swings basically you double the swing from the pivot point and the swing height, you double that component. So the swings, the value of the ball zones are
valid.
Shown.
Okay. So
It's
the slide would possibly not be.
and we have room.
And I'm voicing that concern because there's nobody from the neighborhood tonight, but that's one of their big concerns.
And I'm sure we'll hear.
I mean, in my neighborhood, they would probably say tear this out and put in a new modern McDonald's style play equipment. But that's not this neighborhood's concern.
You said there is room, is that correct? There is
Well,
room?
I mean, we've got, it looks like we've got 5 to 6 feet here. I don't know how much that landing needs to, I guess I wasn't making that leap to move forward to exchanging the play equipment, that kind of thing, but just kind of doing a comparison if we moved it, and we've got a little room here, not to get into the politics of things, but this is older aged play equipment. We're putting in a children's library, so there's the bigger discussion. And it's a busy night. Kurt Lango apologizes for not being here with our landscape architect. It's the holidays. I think it's their office, celebration. but there's been lots of discussion on the existing equipment and the appropriateness in the location.
You've been taking comments at the library. Have the people that you've been showing these drawings at all?
We have had them in our back pocket.
Okay.
We had the slides hidden, in PowerPoint. If the issue came up, we were more than happy to share. We have a board. The issue has never come up.
The play
and
area
these have
has
been
never come up at all.
Well, they've asked. They love it. They love the idea of it being adjacent to the children's area. We had people from McLaughlin neighborhood in today. I asked them to go to the neighborhood committee, but they love it. It's not come up. And they said, "Are you moving the equipment?" And we said, "Not sure, but potentially." Because we can't speak. And we have heard no opposition whatsoever.
Well, I think the concern, though, is if you can't say a lot about it, how can those neighbors create an opposition?
Well, it was a community meeting, open to everybody. They were invited. They're also getting their meeting tonight.
And I don't want to sound adversarial to this.
No, absolutely
I'm just trying to voice the fact that it's kind of seems like it's hidden the fact that the reality is the playground equipment's gone, and that needs to be first on the
It's
the
not
list when it
gone.
comes to
It's
the
not
park.
gone. It's just
This
been
current-
relocated.
These current components will be gone.
But we just heard from Denise that you won't be able to relocate it.
Yeah.
Right, there won't be the current
The practical
components.
reality is it's going to be very difficult to relocate that equipment.
It would be extremely difficult to relocate it without damage. The cost of moving it, the cost of a structural engineer to certify that it's viable, and then, we know the slide is non-compliant. So that, in and of itself, to move a non-compliant piece would be somewhat of a liability.
Once you acknowledge
So,
it.
not to put words in Sean's mouth, but the concern is you're telling the neighborhood association, here's the playground, move to this nice location right outside the children's library, but you're keeping in your pocket the fact that you're not going to be able to do it.
No,
We just-
absolutely not.
No, no, no.
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, then I'm misunderstanding somewhere.
We're telling, I think what I think what everybody's saying, the staff and the architect are saying, this is being presented right now. This is being presented over at the McLaughlin neighborhood meeting as well as here. It's in the process of just being presented because there's a process by which you kind of roll out the plans, if you will, and so it's not. I think some of the words might have thrown you off a little bit there, but
It sounds like
it's just kind of being put in front of the Parks Committee, the neighborhood, and so these things are just for your
So
consideration.
we're helping you flush them out right now.
Right.
Right. So there's. So this.
We've seen this,
works.
but not. Yeah.
This works. We. Not knowing. Slide design. Off the top of my head. That probably work with a 2-foot lower slide. I don't know, but what we're, as developing a 21st century library, $10 million overall project. We feel like this plaza and entry is a very important is as important as the library addition, and we know we've got this play equipment in an inopportune spot.
And I think if it hasn't been said quite clearly enough, but the bottom line is, if the option is selected where the entryway would dissect the playground, and we had to relocate it or move it or whatever, what we are saying, and Denise said that, and we were talking about, we've gotten some professional opinions. We haven't gotten it engineered per se, but we believe, in our professional opinion, it is that there is a good chance that it cannot be replaced exactly as it is. The existing equipment cannot be exactly moved and replaced. So therefore, then we would have to look at some components of newer equipment that, to the best of the ability that we could do, would provide the same amount of play. It might not be a 10-foot slide, but we would definitely be working with the project team, the architects and the landscape architects and all the folks involved to make sure that the play components
It sounds like
Or
we
at
shouldn't
least
move
as-
it anyway.
At least as similar or more. And of course, as
Isn't that the case? That we shouldn't move it even if we could because it isn't compliant. So we ought to face up to that right away. We shouldn't
well, there
have
are options that
non-compliant
don't. There
equipment
are options
part.
that don't move the equipment.
So they're
that's
grandfathered in, so we can keep them if we don't move them.
If we keep it, then it interferes with the access to the library.
Right.
So
I mean, I
that's-
think,
I mean-
I think we
Yeah,
have
that's
to
what-
be, I mean, just, there have been a number of times over the last month and a half that I have been reminded by people outside of the McLaughlin neighborhood that this is an Oregon City project, and we have to make sure that it addresses the needs of the people of Oregon City, and that this is not a neighborhood park. So, and I think we need to keep that in mind and step back a little bit at times to remember that. And I know this is really important to the neighborhood association, and I understand that, and I have the same memories with some of this equipment. But when you're talking about the library and ADA compliance and access of people into that resource, that, at least in my mind, often trumps leaving this equipment in the way. And I think we need to remember that. There's times we have to step back. I think we do also need to be honest about the portrayal of what it is and make sure everybody is fully aware of what we're talking about. But we do need that. We need to make sure we remember that this is about all of Oregon City, and in fact, even a larger area than that.
Mr. Chair.
Joyce, you had your hand up.
Well, okay, you've changed slides, so I'm a little confused.
I'll go back.
On the, well, look at this slide here.
Okay.
Where this slide has, it's heavy on the children's side, and you're leaving the equipment where it is. Okay. But the last slide, it was symmetrical, and you've moved the equipment back. So the question is, if we put that equipment back by the new equipment back here, okay, so now this building is symmetrical to the Carnegie.
It actually isn't. This one we've cut, it was symmetrical. We've cut it 12 feet back to accommodate the play equipment.
Okay, so this one has been cut back 12 feet to accommodate the play equipment. Right. So, well, this one looks to me to be symmetrical to the Carnegie.
Yes.
It's actually not.
But it's more symmetrical than the other.
Yes,
one, though.
true. It's heavier towards 7th, though.
This one's heavier towards 7th, and the other one's heavier towards 6th.
Right, and that was before we put, just in honesty, I mean, these are conceptual, they're schematic drawings.
Right.
So we went out, and took the measurements, and did the, trying to inform you, to illustrate to you guys what it would actually take to have it.
So moving the play equipment back there reduces the library by quite a bit.
Doesn't reduce
Quite a
it.
bit, but I mean, this
Yeah,
is
it
still
changes.
schematic. It's still schematic, and
It's taking 12 foot off the end
Oh,
of
we
that
It's
building.
just shifting it. It's not taking it off.
no,
is
we're
it?
taking it off.
They're taking
We're
it off.
taking it
So
off,
it's a reduction in total square footage.
but you have to
Yes.
realize this is schematic design.
Yeah.
We haven't, I mean, we hardly have a structural grid. We're a little bit over in square footage in our schematic floor plans because we've drawn them once, just as kind of a test fit. So, we're still in the process of discovery. But before we go too much further down, this is our recommendation, is to create a library, plaza, and entry. Very civic, very interactive. But to do that, we have to move or replace the existing equipment. And so we're here to inform you. We're over at McLaughlin Neighborhood to inform them. And we've presented to the community and we'll present to the commissioners the same. And so what we're trying to do is aggregate all these comments, concerns, and come up with a solution that builds a library. And makes people happy.
Somebody had a comment. Yes.
I did. And Dan encapsulated it perfectly, that I feel that as a patron of the library, as well as using it for professional purposes, the equipment that is there now is something that I wouldn't let my kids play on the slide.
not?
No, I would not. So nor would I, as a professional educator, have equipment like that. I wouldn't think in our buildings either. So I really, as much as I respect McLaughlin folks and wanting to preserve that ambiance and feel, I do believe that we cannot ignore the liability and the concerns surrounding the safety of that equipment. And I think in some cases we would not be doing our proper civic duty if we did not address that in some way.
Good. Sean?
So I think if I can wrap up my thoughts as well, it would be that it's kind of whatever that phrase is about cutting off your hand to spite your face or your nose or whatever. The priority needs to be given to these walkways and then the equipment be moved to which other side. So that's my first take for you is build the building, build the sidewalks. However, my fear in tonight's presentation and in government projects in general is in 3 years from now when we get to groundbreaking, it's going to be a 3-foot slide and a 2-person swing. And I don't want to see that either, so I think there needs to be a strong commitment that we put as similar of equipment as there now, so that we're...
Strong commitment to the spirit.
Yeah, I want to understand that what's there now may not be there, most likely won't. What's there, I don't want any of us to come back there and say, really? We didn't buy that. There's one swing. And that often occurs when we kind of shift things and meetings and all the projects. So on this construction, this is more of a question now. You talked about cutting off 12 feet.
Mm-hmm.
In the other drawings we've seen at the other meetings, can't you just shift the building?
Well,
then weight it to 7. Now, I'm kind of asking that as an open question, not even for an answer.
You can kind of see here. So these are the canopy of the existing trees. Yes, this is an elm tree. So
That's your problem.
I mean, we are a 10-pound potato in a 5-pound bag. I mean, we got a lot going on this site.
And you're running into basalt on that corner.
Right.
Well, that was less of my concern. The tree canopy, you really can't, the trees are...
And at the same time,
the rock.
as architects, as landscape architects, we feel like the addition, as it's integrated into the Carnegie, it has to live on its own. It has to be beautiful. Yeah. I mean...
Well, that's why I'm saying these comments...
So we're trying to massage all of that.
Right. Well, and I'm saying these comments because the mayor's here tonight too, and they're going to have the ultimate decision on this. But from this body, it's when we get to the groundbreaking day, I don't want to walk in there and think we've got a little top
I think
part,
that's a really
because we've already got that across the street, and you guys have to pick this stuff, and so
and I think the architects, they're hearing from the neighborhood, they're hearing from the greater Oregon City community, and even outside of Oregon City. They're trying to meet the aspects of, the canopies, the structural engineering as far as, how much we're going to spend to remove basalt. There are a lot of moving parts to this that they're trying to balance. At some point, we are not probably going to meet everybody's expectation, and we're hoping to give the greater community as much as we can with as little overages. We really want to stay within the budget, and to do that and to meet everybody's expectations, again, it's that 10-pound potato in the 5-pound bag. The realistic concept is we may not appease everybody's expectations, but we're certainly going to make the greatest effort possible to the greatest majority of the community. And knowing that there's a lot of emotional ties to this makes it even a greater difficulty to make that balance and have everybody's approvals. So I think the architects have done their due diligence with an extended amount of meetings, community inputs, and coming to these boards and presenting their cases. So we might be looking at the park aspect, which is one of the reasons why it is a 2-story behind. So they really took into the aspect of what the greater global picture is that we really want to retain that, but we also want to retain this, and we also want to retain that, and then we got to stay within a budget. So when we look at this project, we also collectively, even I, because I do building facilities, but I do parks, have to take and step back and take that global perspective in, because it's very easy to get myopic.
Well, I think you make a great point, Denise, but I think the point of this body is to make sure that the fact that it went to a two-story building was because this is in a park, and that the park amenities were important to the neighborhood and the city, and they need to be retained. And so that's, I think, we're all on the same page. We're just saying it a little differently.
Right.
Now I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
And it just requires a yes or no answer.
Don't ask me
Is it
then.
addressed to me? Sorry.
I'm pretty dense. I'm thinking about the footprint of the one-story building and comparing that to these options. Was there, how far to the north did the ones, that wouldn't require a yes or no.
I can
Did the one-story design
did this.
go further to the north than this two-story design?
No, we always stayed away from the canopy of the trees. That was kind of, we've never
Okay,
really
that's
messed.
a no, I got it.
No.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Roger?
So it seems like the whole thing about the slide and the swings was more of a historical, I don't know how, we never did come to a conclusion if this was a historical, piece of equipment that was there. But it is there seems to be a lot of sentimentality to it, a heavy amount, as far as I can see. So if we have to move it and that we can't use it anymore, what about the idea of taking the metal and making it into some structure? I mean, art piece. Maybe at Rube Goldberg, not Rube Goldberg, but Dr. Seuss kind of, and using the metal, and so it's there for the people that say that used to be the slide I went down, and and it's sort of handing a.
That's genius.
That's a great idea.
I don't.
We could make the slides so big that nobody could even get to.
Oh, look who's coming.
You might be able
That's
to
a
find an
wonderful-
artist
that
that
is a
there's a lot of
wonderful
people
idea.
doing metal work. So
That is
And
a
Maureen's
wonderful
missed all the
idea.
fun.
One of the things in your slides as you're going through, I was quite concerned that you were having to take 12 feet off the building in order to accommodate the swings and the slide. And at that point, the swings and the slide are not worth that.
Right.
In my opinion. One or the other. Put up the slide and then put up some natural play equipment. The swings take up a whole lot of space. Or could the swings go under the tree canopy? Do they have to, do the swings need to stay right there? That's what I was saying. The swings were taking up a lot of space. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Is the trade worth it, is what you're asking, Joyce, to trade the playground equipment for the square footage in the building? Well, we've been beating this pretty good. Well, you better be quick. You better be quick. Maureen.
Hi, you guys. So, Sid and I are just coming from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association meeting, where we got an awesome reception on the plans that we showed them. And the conversation about the swing set and the slide lasted about 60 seconds?
You're kidding.
No. How many? 60?
Come on up, Sid.
Yeah. Come on up. And, not everybody was there by any means, but they did not seem overly concerned with the movement of that. They loved the entry, the sidewalk, and the handicap accessible entry. They loved that idea, seemed to really love that idea. And they loved the plaza idea around the spray park. And we didn't go into a lot of detail about what would happen if the slide and the swing set couldn't, once they were moved, if they couldn't be kept. But, I want you guys to know that, I pledge to work with you and them on getting the most appropriate and very, very, very nice equipment that fits into that. We want it to be, that amenity not to be degraded at all. We want to make it as nice as possible. So, we definitely will have that in our budget or add it to the budget or whatever it takes to make that
Okay.
work. So,
That's good to hear. Anything else we want to...
Outstanding. Yeah.
you'll want us to take a position at some point. Mr. Mayor?
I'd like him to speak. I think there's some confusion on moving that back 12 feet. If you give him opportunity to speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Joan. You could actually
Well,
clarify.
Right. We were just doing, again, I guess the word is test fit, but when I said we were cutting 12 feet off the building, we would put it on the back. I mean,
So you're widening it.
Both
Yes.
of these are
That's
the
pretty
same
important. That's
size.
very
So it
important.
And if we,
That's important to know.
yes.
It doesn't reduce the square footage of the library.
I'll-
Okay.
Either one will
That's all.
be exactly the same size, so don't make any decision based on.
Well, that's important to know.
Moving the building one way or another.
It's just like from, say, this site plan to get the clearances. That's what we wanted to check before we came here. You know, what does it take to make the clearance? And so we just, without stretching the back of the building, we just took off 12 feet so that we could get those side-to-side clearances. Does that make?
Well, it does now,
Either
because it
direction.
didn't before. It lost an awful lot of square footage if we lost the 12 feet. But
Either direction is
Okay.
going to be the same size.
Great.
good.
Thank you.
Are
Clarifier.
we
What
going to
else?
make a recommendation?
I'm ready. Scott?
Yeah, well, I think you're going in the right direction there anyway, so I don't want to interfere with that. But I just wanted to make sure you understood the timing. Joan talked about the process a little while ago. You don't meet again until January 22nd.
Yeah.
And there are going to be some, you guys might want to, the project team here might want to address, again, the kind of the key timeline points. So that might affect what you do tonight. I just wanted to make sure that that was real clear to Prac, that
So-
there were some key decisions that
What-
happened probably before you meet again.
We know this is our last chance to make a recommendation before they move ahead with the
I'll
plan.
let those folks
Yes.
That's,
Bob, I'd like to make a motion.
Mike, go.
I would move that Prac recommend either option 1 or option 2, which allow the direct entry, with the provision that there be a relocated play area with the same or similar play capacity. Is that the wording you use, Scott?
Apparatus?
That sounds good.
The same play capacity as the existing equipment.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion or second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. The motion carries, and it was wonderful presentation, and
Thank you.
you went past your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I look forward to coming in and looking at those pictures a little more side by side so I can get an idea what option 1, the differences between option
Pretty
1
subtle.
and
I mean, it is pretty subtle.
They're sitting up at the library now.
I'm glad we didn't lose 12 feet. I've been stumbling over
No,
that.
and I'm
Yeah.
sorry if that was not clear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Next, we have a report from the Oregon City Swimming Pool.
While we're getting set up here, I'll just give the committee a brief intro. I think many or most of you know Rochelle. She's been with us for quite a few years. She is our aquatic and recreation supervisor. She's the one that runs the pool and also oversees a lot of our recreation programs, all those wonderful things like concerts and the movies and playground or summer camps in the park and all kinds of good stuff. So again, this is in the series of reports to you that you requested from our main division groups. The Pioneer Center was at your last meeting, and Rochelle is tonight to do this one, and then I think in January you'll hear from our parks manager. So, Rochelle.
Okay, well, thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Rochelle Underholm-Parsh, and I'm the Aquatic and Recreation Supervisor. And I've been with the city actually 8 years. And tonight my presentation is going to consist of an overview of facility projects from 2006 to 2014, budget view and comparison from 2006 to 2014, and then aquatic recreation programs, including special events and our day camps. So, okay, to take a look back in time, the first Oregon City pool that was ever built was an outdoor pool called the Tank in 1963 for $15,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not a red.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it was on the corner of 11th and Madison. And the Federal Works Administration supplied $12,500, and the City of Oregon City contributed $2,500.
Got a deal.
1965, the city built an indoor facility for $309,000 and was open to the public in January of 1966. So the existing facility is almost 50 years old, and it had some significant deferred maintenance issues and safety concerns. In 2007, Oregon City Parks and Recreation conducted a master plan, which included a pool facility assessment. We used the facility assessment to guide us through tackling our safety, structural, and aesthetic needs. And you guys can see in these pictures here the difference of over the years of the appearance of the exterior of the facility. We continued our safety improvements by removing the concrete slab that used to support the old high dive. And we also updated the slide to meet the required safety codes. We carpeted the hallways. We added ADA equipment to comply with some of the new codes, which included an automatic chairlift, stairs. And then we also conducted an energy efficiency audit, and the audit included purchasing of pool blankets, and then we added our heating and cooling system to be operated by computer software. In 2008, we tackled the facility roof issues. There was significant roof leaks as well as standing water. So we repaired the roof, and we replaced our old HVAC units with new, and this enabled us to make repairs to the area where interior damage had occurred. From 2009 to 2010, we'd continue addressing our safety concerns by adding a polymer coating to the pool deck and locker rooms, and not only did this bring us to code in regard to slip-resistant requirements, it also improved the look of the outdated appearance of our locker rooms and our pool deck. From 2010 to 2014, let's see, where am I at? Oh, we replaced the fallen down acoustical tiles. We also repaired the peeling laminated floor in the community room. And the plumbing in our locker rooms was leaking, so we cut behind the wall. We repaired the leaks. We added new stainless steel fixtures, and we tiled the shower area. We continued to address our safety issues as well as improve the appeal to our swimmers by replacing the old chipped gutter tiles with new. And here's an interior view of the curtain wall window project we just completed in September, which improved our energy consumption as well as it immensely improved the look of the facility. And it did address a major safety concern. Our projects over the years have increased our attendance, our energy efficiency, and our revenue. Here's a picture of our updated kitchen. We also replaced our old boiler with a new energy efficient one. And we replaced the leaking locker room sinks with new stainless steel sinks. We sandblasted the pool shell and we repainted it. And then we also added permanent seating to the patio space and a gas grill, and the public can rent that. Here's an overview of all the projects we've completed since 2006 to 2014. The total amount of money reinvested back into the facility has been $1,179,000. If you guys, our goal is to complete at least one major safety, ADA, and energy efficient project a year. And in 2015, we're planning on updating and reconfiguring our front office space. And this project will help comply with ADA needs as well as improve our customer experience, flow of traffic, and staff efficiencies. And in March, we're going to remodel an existing office space, converting it into 2 family changing rooms. So here's a look at the conceptual drawing for the front office space. You can see the counters are set back to allow better patron flow. There'll be patron pass-through onto the deck without having to walk through the locker rooms with the storefront. Great. And then the reconfiguration will include ADA accessible counters, 2 standing workstations, and a display case for our retail products. We hope to start our family changing room project in March. Here's a look at the conceptual drawing for that. Again, we're taking an existing office space which currently has a toilet, and we're going to convert it into 2 family changing rooms, which will be 2 showers, 2 toilets, and 2 sinks. And this is actually a really exciting project because it's going to put our facility into the most current decade. Right now, we don't have a family changing room, so this is really exciting for our programs and our adaptive programs as well. Okay, to jump subjects, I'm going to talk a little bit about the programs offered at the pool facility and our employees. Okay, currently we have 44 aquatic staff. We have 1 office administrator, a half-time maintenance specialist, and 1 full-time aquatic and recreation supervisor. We offer a variety of different activities, and to accommodate the community's needs, we frequently offer multiple activities at the same time. For example, we offer water exercise, swimming lessons, swim team practices, water jogging, lifeguard classes. This is really only to name a few. And one of the programs that I feel is the most beneficial is our school swim lesson program. And my best guess is that it's been around for 40 plus years. And over the past few years with budget cuts, with the school district budget cuts and less classroom time, the program had less schools participating. Unfortunately, in 2012, we were unable to provide school swimming lessons. In 2013, we had 2 of the 8 schools participate, and to absolutely my excitement is this year we are almost full capacity minus 1 school.
It's not John McLaughlin, right?
I'm sorry?
It's not
No,
John
it's
McLaughlin.
Okay, so here's an overview of aquatic visits and our budget from 2006 to 2014. And you can see that our visits have increased dramatically. And part of the increase is increased membership, punch card sales, additional water exercise classes offered, increased facility rentals, additional lap swim times. We have patron incentive programs as well as advanced registration management and record keeping. Our revenue has also increased from 2006 to 2014. Our actual increase is $73,000 if you minus out the school lesson revenue. Again, full attendance in 2006 was $58,000 of our school lesson revenue. And then when 2013, 2 of the 8 schools, that was contributing to $13,000 of our bottom line. So we're increasing our revenue. Our cost recovery has also increased from 50 to 55%, with the national average being 30 to 32%. So in regard to cost recovery, we do a really, really great job.
Slow down on that. Say that. I'm still stuck on one up above.
The revenue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the 2006, that the $242,000 includes the $58,000 of full school
Right.
lesson revenue. The 13-14 is $270,000. That includes the $73,000.
Okay.
So if you minus out the school lesson revenue, the actual increase in revenue is $73,000.
Where I was getting hung up on was the double the visits and not double the money. And then honestly, from there on, I wasn't listening to you because I was still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for the interruption. I'm just trying to reason why that was. And
Yeah, if visits directly correlated to our revenue intake, that would be fantastic. But for example, like we'll increase visits because maybe you'll buy an annual membership.
Okay.
So you'll visit us maybe every day, 300 and whatever, you know. But it doesn't directly correlate to the.
Okay.
So we have more people visiting us. So. Okay. And I did want to take this opportunity to thank the aquatic employees. They really train hard. They're dedicated. They have to train monthly for mandatory in-services, for CPR, first aid, bloodborne pathogens. They have to know how to use an automated external defibrillator to save lives. They have to be absolutely proficient at all rescues and emergencies. And 2013 to present, staff has actually made 15 rescues, 1 being last night. So this is not the most current. So I can't talk highly enough about them. I'm extremely proud of them, and they're amazing. So, okay. So switching from aquatics to recreation, currently we have 7 seasonal recreation staff, 1 seasonal camp director, and 1 full-time aquatic and recreation supervisor. Oregon City Parks, we offer movies in the park. Last year our attendance was about 400. And we had the community vote last year for which movies they wanted to watch, and we had 407 people vote, and we're going to ask for the community to vote again for the 2015 series. We'd also like to provide we also provide a bunch of camps throughout the year. We offer 3 summer camps lasting 10 weeks each, and we offer day camps when the kids are out of school over the holidays. And the total number of kids in 2013-2014 is approximately 4,000 kids that visit us. And we're continually looking for ways to increase those numbers and add camps. So. We also offer a variety of recreation activities through contracted instruction and classes. At the pool, we offer yoga, step aerobics, karate classes, and we're looking at expanding our options. In the parks, we offer a variety of youth sports programs such as Skyhawks. And a special event that's continued to grow in popularity has been our Oregon City Summer Concert Series. Last summer was the first year we held the series at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, and this site proved to be an excellent location to accommodate our growing crowds. And with a permanent stage being built, I'm optimistic our series will continue to grow in popularity. Not only has our attendance increased for our concert series, but so has our sponsorship level. Last year we raised $15,550, and I'm expecting for 2015 to raise $16,300.
So you have wine tasting. That's good.
And where were we at the Carnegie on money?
I'm sorry?
Where were we when it was back at the Carnegie? So you said like
we were
14,
at about
15, 16.
it was between 11 and 12.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. So here's a sneak peek actually at next year's summer concert lineup. So we have an excellent mix of funk, blues, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And if you're a Journey fan, don't miss the national touring Journey tribute band, Stone in Love. Very popular last year summer concert series. They would draw crowds of about 5,000 people. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention local artists such as Ellen White, who will be performing with her 9-piece band, as well as Ray Gordon. She'll be one of the 4 singers in an Etta James tribute band, which is actually a special project, the Etta James tribute band. So last year we had the Beatniks. They're actually going to be returning this year because they were such a popular band last year. And the Touchables and Ants in the Kitchen are absolutely top-notch musical acts. And to wrap up the season, we've got Johnny Limbo and the Lugnuts.
And who puts that together? You?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Good job.
And here's some additional information on voting for movies in the park. I believe you can vote as many times as you want if you switch computers. So, the voting opens March 9th.
Is that encouragement?
Yes, absolutely. Vote, yep. And then the winning movies will be announced June 5th. And then you can find the links on the website and the city Facebook pages. And in conclusion, I'd like to thank the dedicated recreation staff, their success behind our programs, and I just really appreciate their creativity, their patience, their hard work, and their humor. Really great to work with. So, in conclusion, again, I guess the second conclusion, thank you for your continued support, being an advocate for Parks and Recreation, and in your time this evening. And do you guys have any questions?
Any questions?
No,
We'd
just
like-
a comment, if I may. I've worked with Rochelle for a while, and I just want to really commend you on the job you do. It's amazing. You do great things and put fabulous things together for us, and you're a wonderful partner in all of the different activities that I did in my previous job. So I miss working with you, but you're amazing.
Thank
It's
you.
a great program.
I second.
Amen.
Unanimous. Thank you very much,
Great.
Rochelle.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just add, Rochelle was thanking all of her staff and all that, but I want to thank Rochelle for all the good work that she does. A lot of that stuff is through her initiative and her direction, kind of like what you said, Lisa, and does a great job. Working with our whole group, our team. It's small but mighty. We say that a lot, but Rochelle gets a lot done. And she probably does the work of a few people, I think. So, but very very pleased with all of that. As you can see, a lot of good things have happened and continue to happen. So, thanks, Rochelle.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we now? We are on general business.
Positive report.
Glen Oak Road and Filbert Run Parks Master Plan Project update. I guess, Scott, that would be you?
Sure. I know a number of you were at the master planning meeting, so please feel free to add your comments. But just to bring it back to the committee here, we held the final of 3 planned open house type of meetings for the 2 park sites. So 3 meetings at 2 parks. The final preferred option was presented at the meeting in November for each of the 2 parks. I've given you a packet of those drawings. It's color drawings with 2 separate packets. One is for Filbert Run Park, and one is for the Glen Oak Park site. And included in that is what we were calling, what was unveiled at those meetings as the final preferred option. And then attached to that is a copy of some of the information boards that were up there during those meetings. Some information as to what led to those decisions and the discussion at the previous meetings, and then also just some photos of typical features that you would see for the planned or the proposed features in the parks. So seemed that at both of the final open houses we had good consensus from those that attended. Again, I know several of you attended those meetings, and staff, along with our consultant Kurt Lango and Lango Hansen Landscape Architects, we believe that we have good consensus around those preferred plans, and this is kind of the first presentation to PRAC. What I plan to do is come back and have Lango Hansen give you a full presentation and a little bit more in-depth information about those plans, and that is, in essence, will begin the adoption process, which goes from PRAC hopefully supporting those and recommending that forward to go to our through our land use process of adoption, which will take probably a few months into the next calendar year here. So just wanted to kind of give you a real quick snapshot, give you those drawings. I've got those site plans are on the big boards behind me here for all of our viewing audience out here tonight. But you can take those with you and review those. And if you have any questions, tonight, of course, feel free to ask. But mostly just wanted to kind of put that on your plate, let you digest it, and then know that we'll be back to give you a little bit more of an in-depth presentation about that and kind of be thinking about those issues. But those were pretty well vetted with the public in our 3 open houses, and we'll continue to vet those publicly as we go through this adoption process. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have at this point. Otherwise, it'll be back in front of you.
Questions? Okay, thanks. Willamette Falls Legacy Project update.
So in the effort to keep you posted on this project, this is just our regular update at the meeting each time, and these are just for your information and awareness. Since you last met, the City Commission approved the Willamette Falls Legacy Project Framework, Master Plan, and then rezoning of the property. So the next steps in the process are that the partners, and we say the partners, we're talking about the partnership of the different agencies, the city, Metro, the state, and the county. The partners are preparing to submit paperwork to the state to demonstrate compliance with the requirements of Senate Bill 5533-A, which is the legislation that provides $5 million to the project. You've probably heard of the $5 million committed by the state to this project, and that's what that is. That is coming from lottery funds, lottery bonds, and that's intended to provide assistance for land acquisition, improvements, rehabilitation, and enhancement of the area around the falls. This information is due to the state next week, so our planning department staff are in the process of finalizing that paperwork and submitting that so that we meet the requirements of the state. We want to get that money, obviously. The main conditions of receiving that money from the state are basically there are 3 main conditions. One, the governor's office has approved the finance and development plan to help prepare the site for a public access project. The partners are have prepared a financing plan demonstrating the ability to finance the initial design and 1 phase of construction, potentially on the PGE facility. 2, a local or regional public sponsor of the project has secured a property interest in or option on a riverfront portion of the property. The partners, in essence, have been negotiating an easement. As you know, the property itself, other than the PGE part of it, is now privately owned by a developer. The partners are working with the owners of the property and PGE for for public access for the waterfront, but also for the access to the dam, which is kind of what gets you out to the falls themselves. It's anticipated that the easement is going to be completed and signed by the middle of next week. Did you have a question, Sean?
Just quickly, you
Sure.
keep saying partners. I'm assuming these are government agencies like the
Yes.
city, county, and metro?
Yeah, that's the partner group that I was talking about. Again, yeah, it's the city, the county, metro, and the state.
And say, are you able to discuss if there's any Oregon City budget financing going towards that
Yes.
relates to your department and this body?
Yeah, the funding package to do the Riverwalk does include, the city has to put up a certain amount of that, and it does include some city funding. A good chunk of that is pledged from our department via the use of some local share dollars that are originated from the Metro bond money that need to be used for specific criteria, and this meets that criteria, and it's part of the funding package.
As part of the Metro open space bonds? Or a different?
It's the local share.
Oh, right.
Maybe
right.
I'm not
I remember
understanding
that.
your question, but it's the local share money.
I didn't catch that. I know what
that
you're
we're
talking about.
pledging
Yeah.
to use to this. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's our portion of
Right.
what was carved out for the local communities to use as they saw best
Good.
to meet that. So the third main thing of the conditions of the $5 million are sponsorship. That a sponsor has requested that State Parks and Rec Department participate in the planning, development, and potential future operation of any public access project on the site to ensure that the statewide significance of Willamette Falls is recognized and interpreted, and that the falls are accessible to the public. So just, again, that the significance is at the state level, not just at the local level. All of the public agency partners that we've already mentioned that you were asking about, Sean, have all entered into a memorandum of understanding regarding the project and the path forward to build the Riverwalk. The Riverwalk is the component that would be, exactly what it says. It's going to go along the river, and it eventually goes out to the going south, and it goes out to across the PGE property and onto the what's commonly referred to as the dance floor. It's the platform that sits right at the falls. So the partners are working towards that. In the memorandum of understanding, the partners have requested that Oregon State Parks and Rec officials participate in the planning. So again, there's state involvement to keep it at that level, and take the lead on designing a process for tribal involvement in the project and its interpretation. So a lot of pieces are moving right now, and funding and partnerships and all the different things that are going on. And but the big thing is, again, commission approval. I know you reviewed this and gave your support to the master plan at a previous meeting. That went through the process, and it went and got approved by the commission. And then right now the big emphasis is making sure that we meet the guidelines and the parameters for the state to provide the funding that they've pledged of the $5 million. I know that was a lot of information, but just wanted to make sure that you had the latest and greatest, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions? If not, let's move to the next item, the report on the Ermitinger House project update.
Don't really have much for you on that one, other than just to tell you that the project continues to move along, and it's going well. Of course, as with anything, and especially with one of the oldest houses in the state, you're going to find some things that you didn't know were going to be there. You expect the unexpected. So we're kind of working through a few of those issues right now. But I think since the last time I reported to you, the house is back on the ground. It was up in the air before, and it's back down. It's on its foundation, and a lot of basically the interior work is going on now. The project is the timeline has extended out because of some conditions and some issues that we've needed to address that have taken a little bit longer than expected originally, but the project is moving along nicely. One thing on that, real quickly, that we're going to need to discuss somewhere in the future here, that PRAC would have some level of involvement, depending on what you'd like to do, is a discussion of once we complete the house renovation, how are we going to program it? And we're starting to have some of those conversations. There's a group that's working right now towards kind of forming a Friends of Ermitinger House type of a thing. We're working on some different ideas, but anyway, there's some things that we'll need to be working through from the programming end of things once we complete that, and I anticipate talking to you about that. So.
Okay, next item, PrAC member appointments.
So you interviewed some applicants earlier. You've got as of the end of the calendar year, you'll have 3 openings. One is two are not. 2 of you, Mike and Lisa, are either not able to or not choosing to reapply, and Joyce has reapplied for her position and she's eligible for that. So I think this is the point where the committee would typically make some recommendations that we can give back to the mayor, or mayors in this case.
Mr. Chair, I'm already prepared to make a motion on this, and it's going to be a long-winded one, but I think you'll all get the gist. It's kind of 2-part. The first part is I'd like to make a motion that we forward to the mayor a recommendation on all the applicants that we interviewed tonight. Second part is we have 1 opening outstanding as of today, and Mayor Neely has shown an interest in that, and I would like us to extend an invitation to him for that open seat and request an expedited appointment if he in fact applies.
I second that motion. I guess I can't. I can't make.
I'll second it then.
Thank you.
Oh, do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I can.
I will.
I'm still here.
You're still here. Right.
Who can second?
For a little bit longer.
We have a motion and a second. And do we have any discussion on the motion? I think it's a great idea.
Nicely worded,
I
Sean.
think it's a great idea. All the parts are great ideas, Sean. You must stay awake at night figuring out these motions. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. I have a process question. What's the appropriate way to contact Mayor Neely?
He's going to be watching.
Well,
Sean
No, he,
Bob, I contacted him in the hallway about
you already did?
an hour and 45 minutes ago, and he said that he was going to be putting in an application after just hearing that there was an
well,
open
great,
spot.
great.
And so that's my gist is that
Should there be any conversation at any rate, given that?
I think you as the chair would be the appropriate person if you wanted to give him a call and contact him and tell him what we did.
I'd be glad to do
And
that.
and I guess my point there is by expediting it, there's no reason for an interview, in my opinion, and that's.
Correct.
Okay,
I can
Scott,
help
what do you think?
Yeah, if you need any help with the contact info or whatever, I can help you with that. But just let me know.
I'd be glad to give him a call and check him out.
Yeah, it's up
Okay.
to the committee. It's your recommendation. So if you're comfortable with that and you want to go forth, there's no reason not to.
Well, the motion passed, and so I will be glad to do that.
Great.
That'd be a terrific addition.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next? I asked for the annual goals to be put on there, but there's no reason we couldn't put those off for a while.
I just make one comment on that because I'll make it later, but it fits. Is that Glen Oak Park? If you look at our goals since probably 2004 or 5, has identified that park, and my personal opinion of next year's goals is that needs to be a #1 priority to get that funded and constructed. Normally, we always say 3 or 4 years, and that's what it takes. That park has waited long enough. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there publicly for us to think about as we go into those goals next year. And I also say this to a staff standpoint when it comes to budgets, that park needs to happen yesterday.
my idea for suggesting to Scott that we put this on is just to take a look at the goals we established for 2014, just to see where we are, and the work left to be done. But that would certainly be a candidate for 2015 to have it. And we, I guess January, February would be the timeline to establishing 2015 goals. Does that sound right?
Sounds great.
I think last year was even March or April by the time we got finished with it. We talked about it quite a while, but
Fortunately, they turned out so well last year, we might be able to regurgitate a few.
okay, let's move on to other general business. Wait a minute, is that where we are now?
That's it.
Yeah, other general business. Scott, you have anything else?
Nothing else.
Any members have other things you want to bring up?
I do.
Okay.
I've served with Lisa for a long time on this committee, and Mike, and I wanted to just pass on my thank you for your service to the city. You're both huge assets to the city and all you do, from school here, your community, and I just appreciated getting to know you here personally and working with you, and hope that this isn't the last time we all work together.
Thank you. You're here. You'll be missed.
Thank you.
I've only been on a short time. It seems like a short time. It's 3 years now. but I've really enjoyed working with both of you. It's been a nice experience. You'll be missed.
And then I had one more topic. It's more of a process thing. Normally we go into January and we choose a chair, and it's kind of it seems like a little disruptive because we go in, we don't really realize what's going on, we're blindsided with that fact. And I'm on another board that does things a little differently. They vote in January, but they make some nominations in December, and so it's not a formal thing. We don't have any rules, but I intend in January or now to nominate Bob again as chair, because there's been numerous times this year that I've thought to myself, wow, he did that exactly how I would have done that. and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but in my mind it was a great thing. So you've done a wonderful job, and I'd like to see that continue.
Second that.
Thank you.
I think that's a really good point, Sean, in terms of the process. It's a good time to be thinking about that, and I think you've just kind of done that. But yeah, your bylaws say that you elect the chair and the vice chair at your first meeting of the calendar year, and I think the reason for that is to allow for new members to be appointed and seated on the committee, but certainly not a reason not to think about and be thinking about that, so that the process, the nomination and election process, can go well. So you'll see that on your January agenda, just so you know.
Well, I think it deserves a little response. I'd be glad to step aside if anybody else would like to be the chair. I have time. I have interest. I've enjoyed it, but these things are all temporary, aren't they? Aren't they temporary appointments?
You keep doing that good, they might not be.
And if I remember right, I was absent when I was appointed. And I haven't forgotten that, but so just don't miss a meeting, you guys.
Well, and if I could, too, just remind you, you'll need to elect both a chair and a vice chair, and your current vice chair won't be on the committee anymore. So
you?
Yeah.
Just kind of be thinking about that.
Okay, we are on PrAC member reports. So why don't we start down this way, and you can sum up last.
Parting shot.
Dustin.
And this may have been an other general business thing, but something's been on my mind with, we do a lot of opining among this group, and Scott's always here in managing and the crew and everything, and I was thinking today, your boots on the ground, this is literally your livelihood, is the parks, and I was thinking, what do you see, what's the number one thing that we lack? I mean, we talk about lack of funding, lack of staff and everything. You guys, and I'll say straight up, I think you do an incredible job with what you do have, but what can we do as a committee or as a community to make your job easier, to improve the parks? What do you think is the next most important thing?
That's a loaded question. You just gave me a platform here, didn't you?
I know it's been a
3
long
minute
night,
limit.
but it's really been it's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I think, first of all, I think as a committee in general, your job is to just to represent the community with different eyes. You know, some of you have different interests, some of you have similar interests, and lots of good viewpoints. And so that, to me, that's the most important thing you do, is you bring that perspective, and that helps staff a lot. Secondly is you define your list of goals each year, which is very helpful, so that we understand, kind of a bigger picture purpose of the big things that we're working on. Those may or may not align with sometimes what the commission is working on. So remember that the city commission also has a goal setting. They have a goal setting retreat every January at the beginning of the year. They establish goals. Those are their current list of goals, and then they actually expound upon those. There's subcategories in each one of those that says this is what that means or whatever. So I think it's important that the committee remembers that you've got some ideas. The city commission is the ultimate authority in the city to decide what goes on and so forth. And then also staff has some ideas about things, and I think it's important that we do this. I'm not suggesting we don't. I'm very pleased at how the good synergy that we have with you as a committee, because quite honestly, I think you get it as a whole and as individuals. I'm sorry to see a couple of our really good members to be leaving the committee, but I know we're going to end up filling those seats and have good folks as well. This is a great committee. I know you didn't tee this up for it to be a compliment back to you, but I think it's worth me saying that, because I don't get the chance to say that in the public meeting very often. But so that's kind of a long way of saying just it's a reminder of what our roles are, and I think you get what your role is very, very well. Getting into specifics, I don't know that we've got the time to talk about all that tonight, but right now, if you put me on the spot and I had to say something, it wouldn't be focused on projects, it would be focused on operations. My answer would be that we need to solve our deferred maintenance problem, and you've heard me talk about that, and we talk about it some. The Parks and Rec Advisory Committee doesn't typically get deeply into our operational issues. You kind of tend to focus on the projects or the bigger picture or initiatives, new or hearing from community things and trying to put things into place. But we run the department every day, and the biggest issue that we're faced with, quite honestly, right now is our deferred maintenance. And what that means is we've got infrastructure that is old, that we have not historically done a great job of investing in. Now, Rochelle just gave you a really nice presentation about how we've reinvested into the pool. We made a concerted effort over the last about 6 or 7 years, because we were getting to that point where it was fix it or it's not going to work anymore. And the PRAC was actually a big part of that. The City Commission was very supportive. Staff, we advocated a lot to that, and we focused on making some investments there, and that's a good success story. We did the same thing at the Pioneer Community Center, and we've talked about that. We need to do the same thing in parks. It's a bigger issue in terms of both amount of facilities, number of items, but also dollar amounts, and the amount kind of fluctuates a little bit. We're in the process of sort of refining what that number exactly is. The last time we put a really well thought out list of deferred maintenance issues together, it was about $1.2 million, and that doesn't even include that we really need to add some additional staff, especially if we're talking about adding some new parks in the next future here in the next little while. We're pretty well at our capacity of being able to take care of what we've got. We're probably over the capacity, but our staff, we've got such good folks and dedicated folks that they kind of make up for some things that we're lacking. We Band-Aid it and kind of mask it pretty well, quite honestly, because I think as a consumer and just sort of to the general viewing public, everything seems like it's pretty good. and I'm glad to say that. I'm glad that we hear that a lot. But we know that underneath that is sort of some crumbling infrastructure, but also it is kind of visible, some of the things. There's restrooms, for example, the restroom at Chapin Park is just about at failure in terms of usability and its age, and it's a couple $100,000 or so to replace a restroom like that. We just did that at Rivercrest Park. We got a grant. We need to be looking at that same track. Pathways, irrigation systems, drinking fountains, tennis courts, so on and so on. If you really, we did our tour and we kind of pointed out this is what we're talking about when we say deferred maintenance, crumbling pathways and certain areas like that. So, putting me on the spot, that's what I would say. There's also there definitely are projects and kind of big wish list things that I would that we need to focus on, and we do that as well. But a big priority for our department in the coming year and coming up on working with our city commission at their annual goal setting retreat is to try to begin to solve that issue, we've talked about a parks maintenance utility fee and some of those types of things. And so, Dustin, you asked what can PRAC do to support those things, is when those things come up in terms of, needing some support, I would definitely, you'll hear from me in terms of, okay, this is a time where I kind of need your support on this if you're inclined to provide that as a committee. So if we get into things like talking about the parks maintenance fee or some other funding types of things that we might be doing, that's where you as a committee, because you've done a good job of making yourself very relevant. The commission listens to you. Mayor Neely said so tonight, and I think expressed that very well, that you've done a really good job of presenting yourself and taking on issues and then bringing them, through the proper channels. So you're a committee, I think, that gets listened to when you come and talk, or if you need to do something in some type of public setting. We had great PRAC turnout at our parks master planning meetings and other meetings that have happened recently, and that just really shows tremendous support. So sorry, it got a little, I didn't mean to turn the table back on you, but as a committee, you've done a great job of supporting the major things that we need to do, and I think we've done a good job of working together on things. But yeah, that's the maintenance and the deferred maintenance stuff is going to be the thing that I need to get some type of a solution to, because we're getting to that point where the roller coaster's at the top and it's going to start sliding down the hill and there's no brake on the thing or something. So anyway, thanks for asking that. Sorry for the long answer.
No, I think, but you echoed exactly what I've been thinking recently as we bring other parks online. We're talking about, let's go get this, let's get these dog parks, and you look around, and Chapin, the restrooms at Chapin are exactly what sticks out in my mind. And so I think it would be something that for those of us who are going to be on the committee this next year, that we should consider on our goals is really focusing on what we do have and making sure it's operational and functional. And I'm obviously all for new and improved, but let's maintain what we do have also.
Yeah. Great, good point. Roger.
Okay, I have a few items from the Oregon City Pioneer Center, and first item is the Pioneer Center is sponsoring a giving tree, and all gifts collected will go to the Oregon City Retirement Home, which is located on Washington Street. The retirement home clients are very low income, retired, and vets. Along with that, I'm assuming everybody knows what the giving tree is, right? Okay. It's just some suggestions hanging from the tree, and you can pick it off and go out and purchase that item, put it on the tree. And the staff and the volunteers are doing a wonderful job of making everything look very holiday inside, so that's pretty neat. The second item is the Pioneer Center grounds are being cleaned this week, and bushes are being trimmed and leaves raked up, and everything's being spruced up pretty nicely. And also along that, a heat pump compressor is also being repaired. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Joyce?
The only report I have is, it's back on again, is that the master planning, attended all the master planning sessions for the 2 new parks and was really pleased with that whole process. And I look forward to keep moving forward on that. And I'll be happy to serve again with you guys.
Great. I think I'll do mine now rather than the end, so we can have the crescendo at the end. I too attended the park design meetings for Glen Oak and Filbert Run and Newell Creek. I met 2 times with the City Commission representing PRAC, once with the library design plan and once for the Dogs in the Parks plan. And I'll be asking if we should do something in January or February meeting about a position on smoking in the city parks. We may not want to do anything, but I know the state of Oregon is actively involved in their policy making. They backed away from the beaches, but in their parks they still have policies regarding smoking. And I think what they're thinking is the new laws around marijuana and e-cigarettes and so forth. But I'll be bringing that up to see if we want to do anything about that. And I felt really good about the report from the library today, how we finally came to, once we all understood what the conditions and the options were. I think we did a good job with that. That's my report.
Nothing for me.
It's all you. Oh, the question though. Did we skip an item on the agenda relating to dog parks?
No, that's
Off-leash park site 9A.
I'm going to give you some info and update on that in my
I thought
staff
that was
report.
after the PRAC member
Yeah.
reports.
My bad. My lines aren't there anymore. So.
Well, I just would like to say thank you for the last 3 years. Bob and I came on around at this exact same time, and my second term with Sean. So it's always a pleasure. I have to say that I am very impressed with the involvement and the commitment from all of you and the people that this committee has brought out, and it's very. It's wonderful to see so many people take such a great interest and be so committed to make Oregon City the best it can be. So thank you all for all that you do. And it's been, I feel like I've been a little lacking, I'll just be honest, but it's been a pleasure to work with such committed and dedicated people. So keep it up, you guys.
Thank you.
And you please.
I know Bob tries hard, and I always tried hard to end the meetings by 9, but we're after 9, so I can talk as long as I want. No, not really. A couple of points of business first. When you look at your goals, and Scott brought it up, there's been discussion of a parks maintenance fee, and the current council and mayor have spoken about that. But as you know, there's a pretty substantial turnover on the commission in January. And it might be time to visit that in your goals and perhaps have Bob go to the new commission and say that PRAC remains in full support of the idea of a parks maintenance fee and what can you do to help. The other thing, Glen Oak and Filbert Run. Sean already addressed the importance of Glen Oak. For a couple of reasons, and I'm wearing 2 hats. I'm wearing a hat as an advocate for off-leash dog parks and as a resident of the Caulfield neighborhood. That park, the master plan that has percolated up, includes an off-leash dog park, and we know how important that is for the whole community. We also know from the master plan that there are no parks on that side of Malala Avenue. So to me, Glen Oak is a clear top priority. The concern I have, and the reason I'm bringing it up, I told Scott about a year and a half ago that I hoped I was on PRAC long enough to see dirt moved at Glen Oak. And unless I go over there with my shovel in the next couple of weeks, it's not going to happen. So I want to get this in there. Here's my concern. Filbert Run It's a much smaller park. Based on what the neighborhood wanted, there's not a lot of amenities in there. It's going to, in the big scheme of things, it's going to be pretty inexpensive to build. And I'm concerned that there may be a push to say, you know what, let's build one. Let's get it. We've got the money. Let's get it done. And that's going to push Glen Oak further down the road. The other concern, to their credit, the neighborhood association where Filbert Run is very vocal, very active, and they have been very vocal about this park for a long time. And again, new commission coming in, new set of priorities. Political pressure isn't exactly the right word, but that is kind of what, there's going to be pressure brought to bear from that community, neighborhood association, to get that park built. More than there will be from Caulfield. Unfortunately, Caulfield Neighborhood Association is not as strong. So, you know, more power to the association there, but I just ask you, please keep in mind that Glen Oak needs to be the top priority for the community and for that neighborhood. On a personal note, I can't believe it's been 5 years. Seems like I just started. I want to thank Scott and Denise, who seems to have left, but that's cool because I don't know how the two of you do all the meetings you have to do as it is. Your hours just must be nuts. You have to have the most understanding families. Anyway, thank you both for your support and all the work that you do for the city. It's much appreciated. And I've enjoyed being on the committee with all of you. You're not done with me. I will be sitting out there. And I get my 3 minutes. So anyway, thank you all. That's that.
Well, we have a report on off-leash park sites under staff reports.
Yes, let me. So I'll just kind of run through all of my staff reports here for you. So I'm just bringing back to you as a follow-up. There's nothing else that you need to do at this time. That's why it's just as a staff report, not as a business item. That I think you all know that we presented. It did take a while to get back to the commission, and you did your part, but then it kind of got sort of bogged down in some, just basically in my work timetable. But we did present back to the commission the final recommendation from the committee of the 3 sites to be off-leash areas. That was presented at a work session on November 19th. And basically the commission said, we love it, and go ahead. And so there was not really anything that the commission had to do in terms of they didn't have to take any official action, ordinances or resolutions or anything. It falls under the category within our city code of that we have a provision in our code that just essentially covers rule making in parks. It says the city manager has the commission through the code has given the city manager authority to designate or make park rules as necessary as they come up. So this is one of those times where it falls under that category where we're designating these 3 parks as off-leash areas, and we're going to go ahead and implement this program. Now, the implementation piece, so that's the kind of the getting all the support that we needed from PRAC and the commission. The implementation is, and it kind of goes back to a little bit what Dustin was mentioning a little bit ago, is just kind of some of that, the reality of that. We are working on, we being staff, working on a timetable to, we're basically going to have to do some signage and some additional dog dispensers and garbage bags and the like. But we've got to make sure we're prepared to manage that program and deal with it. So we're in the process of putting that together. When the exact rollout will be, I can't tell you right now, but I will report that back to you. It's going to be after the first of the year sometime. It's not going to be way into the year. It's going to be in the early part of the calendar year, but I'm not prepared right now to give you an exact date. Just kind of, it's a work load issue basically for my staff and I to be able to implement it, because we want to do it right. We don't want to just go out and throw up a couple signs randomly and then go, okay, I hope this works. We want to make sure things are in the right place and that we've and then we need to communicate the program. We need to educate And that's another thing that I think the Parks Committee can be helpful, is talking to the citizens, talking to the people out in your neighborhoods, if you happen to live in one of those areas that those parks reside, or in other areas that you don't have a dog area in your neighborhood and folks are running their dogs off leash, and you can point them to one of these sites where it's now going to be legal to do that. So I think there's some things that the committee can continue to do. So I'll keep you informed as we begin to roll out the implementation of that program. And so we basically have gotten all the proper sign-offs that we need to implement it, and it's just a matter of getting it into place. So kudos to you, because really that was very much a PRAC-driven initiative and project, and it's going to happen. So
Interesting use of the word trespassing.
that's just an example. That's not our sign. I forgot to tell you, thanks for, actually, I'm glad you just said that, Joyce, because that reminds me, I gave you a packet. That was what we presented, visual stuff to the commission. It's just the aerials of the 3 parks, and it's kind of marked up sort of generally where we talked about the off-leash areas being. And then we talked with the commission because they wanted to know some, what are the rules of this, and that's something that it was a sign at another dog off-leash area at one of our, I think, neighboring cities or something. Yeah, so that's something that we're. For example, Joyce, though, that is one of the things that I need to fine-tune what exactly the signs are going to say and all that, and we're working on that. So yeah, that's just an example to give you an idea of, you'd see something like this up at the park. So yeah. Any more questions or comments about that? I'll just move through here. I've got a couple more things. The Clackamas Heritage Partners gave their annual report to the City Commission at the Commission meeting last evening. Under the agreement that we have with Clackamas Heritage Partners, again, Clackamas Heritage Partners, CHP, is the nonprofit organization that is our partner at the end of the Oregon Trail site that help us in they're actually on site. They run the visitor center, and they are doing the programmatic things at the interpretive center. Under the agreement they have with us, they're required to give the City Commission an annual report, just kind of an update, and here's what's going on. It was a good report, and I'm happy to report to you that things are going very well. The programs are going well. There was a commitment in our agreement with them that the Commission was very emphatic about when we entered into this new agreement about a couple of years ago now, that CHP would do its best to help us reinvest into the facilities, because as you know, again, talking about deferred maintenance, those buildings are in need of help, and they've done a good job. CHP have done a good job of seeking funding. They generate their own revenues through their organization. They've written a number of grants and been successful in getting money. They painted the hoops last year. They're doing some things with helping us to invest. The city also is providing some financial support because that is our park and that's our facility. But they've been a very good partner, and they're doing a really nice job. They're basically, if not for them or an organization doing what they're doing, we wouldn't have the capacity, staff-wise or financially, to operate that center. So they're doing a nice job. So I've included with the paperwork I've given you there the written report that they gave, along with their testimony that they gave. And if you're interested in listening to their report, you can go on the online video and you can just click on that part of the agenda where they gave their report. So that's just an update to you on that. I've got you didn't already get your recreation activity reports, did you? I'll make sure you get a copy of those that we prepare for you. If you have any questions about those, let me know. And then lastly, I'll finish up by thanking Lisa and Mike for their service. I want you to know that I have greatly enjoyed working with both of you. Lisa, your second tour of duty here since I've been with the city, but each of you have brought some great some great perspective, leadership, vision, and you're just both really nice people to work with, and you make it fun, as do the rest of the committee as well. But since you're leaving, I get to say the nice things about you guys tonight. I have thoroughly enjoyed being able to work with you in this capacity, and I know that I'll see both of you around and in different things that you're involved with. But thanks so much for everything that you've done, and it's been a pleasure. It's been my pleasure to work with you. So, and as a reminder, we'll be having a brief reception for Mike and Lisa right after the meeting, if you're able to stick around for a few minutes.
Why do you think I came?
What was that?
So why do you think I came?
Yeah.
John's here for the food.
Anything else to come before the meeting tonight, before we adjourn? We are adjourned at 9:07.